This is Ruchi Jain from Shivaji Rao Kadam Institute of Technology and Management. Friends, the subject on which these videos are business law. The today's topic of discussion is consideration. What consideration is? Consideration is one of the essential element of a valid contract. As in my first lecture, we will see the essentials of a valid contract. In that, the consideration, lawful consideration, is one of the essential for a valid contract. When a promise is made in exchange of something in return, the something in return is called consideration. The something is return is called consideration. Without consideration, an agreement is void. Now, if we are discussing an example, Mr. A and B are two persons, as in this diagram is offer and acceptance. Then during this offer and acceptance process, there must be some formation. That formation, it may be in rupees, it may be in dollar, it may be in some gifts. Then that gift, dollar or rupees, are called some consideration. Then consideration, we can say, is the reward given by one party of the contract to another party. If one party say to another party that during or while completion of the contract, we will give you something, that something which after completion of contract is giving is called consideration. Now, when we are talking about the definition of consideration, then the definition comes under the Indian Contract Act in section 2D. When at the desire of the promisor, the promisee or any other person, point number 1, has done or abstain for doing, or point number 2, does or abstain for doing, and point number 3, promises to do or abstain for doing something, such act or abstentions or promises is called a consideration for promise. This definition of consideration is written in Indian Contract Act. Now, there are some legal rules for the consideration. So, these rules are: it must move at the desire of the promisor. The desire of the promisor, according to the desire of the promisor, the considerations are prepared. It may move by the promisee. This consideration is moved by the promisee. Promisee will move according to that consideration. It must be past, present or future. In all three times, the consideration can be performed. It may be in past, it can be a present, or it may be in future. It need not be adequate. It must be real. Some imaginary things or some imaginary consideration are not the part of consideration. It must be legal, immoral, and opposed to public policy. If it must not be illegal, consideration must not be illegal. For any illegal thing is not a consideration, or if consideration is opposed to public policy, then it is also not the consideration is. Now, it means these are all the legal rules for the consideration. Now, there are some exceptions to the rules that an agreement without consideration is void. We all know without consideration an agreement is void. Then there are some exceptions in which considerations are not worked. Like in the matter of love and affairs, except considerations are not worked. Compensation for voluntary services. If somebody gives some services to any NGO, any government school as a voluntarily services, then this is not the compensation under consideration. Then promise to pay a time barred debt. After a long time period, then barred debt are paid, then this is also not a consideration. Then completed gift, any kind of gift, any type of gift is not the part of consideration. Agency, section A185, agency contract. If in agency contract, if agent to pay something, then that agency contracts are not also comes under consideration. For the purpose of charity, if somebody pays something, then that is also not a consideration. Then contract of bailment contract according to section 148 are not part of consideration, as bailment is not for the purpose of any legal activity, then it is not a part of consideration. Friends, this is the different terms which we was discussed in this videos. Now a very good picture of valid contract is created, that offer plus acceptance. If somebody offers something to Mr. A and he accepts that offer, then it becomes promise. In this promise, one important thing is consideration. If consideration matters, then that consideration becomes agreement, and if agreement is an enforceable by law, then it becomes contracts. So contract has a valid contract has this all step by step procedure of creation, and on that basis a valid contract is prepared. Thank you very much. That's all about the different terms about the contract. In the next lecture we will discuss the classification of contract. Thank you.